Hello and welcome. This is Dinim class number 20. And we are going to learn today. You guys want to learn? All right. What's our premise? What is the premise of this class? Let's go. Dinim. Very good. Is Dinim a Geir issue or a Noahide law? It is not a Geir issue. It is a Noahide law. That is not to say that Geirim do not take part in Dinim. Our intention for this class, ongoing, is to clarify the seventh Noahide law called Dinim Type 1. That's right, Aaron. The Akum, Nachri, Goy, Gentile, Amim, Umim, Eno Yehudi, whatever you want to call this guy, Johnny Akum, it's for him. When they go onto Facebook in the forums, can a Noahide do this class is for him, type 1? But is there such a thing as a Noahide or the word Noahide or Noahide law in terms of this kind of law? Meaning, is there a book or a rabbi, like Rabbi Akiva rabbi, that lays out Noahide law? Does that exist? Does not exist. So our friends that ask, Noah will tell you it exists. It does not exist. Now, there are 7 Noahide laws, and even though that is a question in Chazal, let's just say that the tractate Sanhedrin lays out 7 Noahide laws, because it's not written in the Chumash, but Lefi Pshuto, which the whole Torah is Lefi Pshuto, we can say the Noahide laws are alluded to in both Adam and Noah, Lefi Pshuto, on an even scriptural level. In Sanhedrin, the Talmud, Oral Torah, tells us the 7 laws, type 1. Then you have Rishonim, medieval commentators. Can you name for me a couple of our favorite medieval commentators? Rashi, Rambam. And the Rambam, for example, he wrote the Mishnah Torah, type 1. Is the Rambam the only authority of Noahide law, like Ask Noah says he is? No, he's not. Does that mean that I'm going to go against the Rambam? No. It just means stop making it stupid in elementary, because it's not stupid in elementary. But the Rambam wrote out basic law. When I say basic, does that mean simple? Or does it mean lo nachon, meaning it's not fully cooked? And by the way, lo nachon in Hebrew does not mean wrong. It means not fully cooked. I don't believe the Rambam is fully cooking a meal in 10 halachas. And the word belief there is not like my actual belief. I know that for a fact. So the Rambam lays out the law in general principles. But we saw in the previous classes, Noahide law can be pretty extensive, right? The meat, and all these things. And the Talmud, the oral Torah, has given us the wisdom and the tutelage that we should be able to figure out any Noahide law, type 1. But by definition, it becomes by svara, logical deduction. And does that cheapen it because it's svara? Am I trying to say that it's weak because it's logic? No. We're coming to say that it just happens to be logic. But don't tell me that it is written somewhere, the extensive Noahide laws, because they, by definition, they can't be. But we can figure out cases. Where would you go to figure out a case? If you had a question in Noahide law, where would you go to figure out the law? No. How many of you ever heard of the seventh Noahide law called Dinim? Anybody else? How many of you have ever heard Dinim translated as establishing courts of justice? Guess what you do at establishing courts of justice? You figure out Noahide law. And you would use the Torah and the Talmud, and you would use your Hokmah, and you'd figure out how to do it. Now, when you would figure it out theoretically, we have discovered that Akum law, remember the Noahide is Akum law, is, if not 100% of the time, then like 90% of the time. But I'm thinking 100. It is derived, i.e. Gentile Torah, non-Jewish Torah, whatever word you want to plug in there that makes you happy, is derived through at least some kind of contrast. The Jewish law for Jewish people and the fill in the blank here. Geir Law for Geir people. Is there one kind of Geir or a lot of kind of Geir? A lot of kind of Geir. That's why it makes it complicated. That's what makes it very complicated. But that's not an excuse to not do it. And by the time you exhaust and get into Geir Torah, you will have a full perspective of what the Akum law is. Why does a Geir need to be involved with Goyim? Why would a Geir need to be involved in Noahide Dinim? Why aren't you like a graduate of that? Why are we not considering you a graduate of that? Anyway? That's very good. You still understand. How about also because it clarifies the Geir Law? Type 1. It reveals wisdom of Torah to help everybody. Type 1. Everyone still has a portion of Dinim, Jews, Geir, and Akum. Torah is Torah. How about that? And it's amazing wisdom. How about that? How many of you have ever heard of the tractate Nazir, the Nazarite? Do you know that it's a tremendous tractate to learn in the Talmud? Did you know that? And guess what? I'll let you know a little secret. I'm not a Nazarite. So why would I learn about Nazirite if I'm not a Nazir? Why? Why would any Jew learn in the yeshivas about Nazir when they're not a Nazir? How about because there's wisdom there? It's interesting. It's law. It reveals aspects of Torah. It's a part of Torah. That's why Noahide is a very special thing. When they ask their questions, it allows us to research in the Talmud, find Geir Torah, and develop and bring down wisdom. I think it's a good thing. So the more Geirim are involved in their mitzvah of Dinim, because you're not done with the 7 just because you're Geir, it only helps you grow and strengthens you. It's called learning Torah for the sake of heaven. So that has been the ongoing theme of Dinim. And I think it's been successful. So this new series we're going to do, and it's going to be a series, is going to be another continuation of the previous 2 series, but it's a brand new series. It's called Amira La'akum, or you can call it Amira Lagoy, or you can call it Amira Lanachri. Does anybody know what Amira Lagoy is? That's the title for the Shabbos Goy in Halacha. Who knows what a Shabbos Goy is? A non-Jew who does labor, now I'm not talking hard labor, I'm talking about turning lights on and stuff. The non-Jew does stuff for a Jew on Shabbos. Right? The Jew cannot turn lights on. The non-Jew can turn lights on. The non-Jew does turn lights on. Does that sound a little bit Lafib Shuto to you? It should. First of all, is it forbidden to turn lights on? The Jewish people will tell you yes. But is it? And if it is it forbidden by the Torah or rabbinically? Which means, is there ever a reason a Jew can turn the lights on? Or are there sometimes a Jew could turn the lights on? What is a non-Jew? Is the halacha talking about an akum? Noahide? Nachri? Goy? Eno Yehudi? A non-Jew? A Gentile? A Ger? Ger Toshav? Who exactly are we talking to? Or who exactly are we not talking to? How many of you have ever heard of a non-Jew in your life? How many of you have ever met a Jewish person in your life? How many of you have ever hung out with a Jew on a Saturday or Friday night? Or in theory could hang out with a Jew on a Friday and Saturday. By definition, that makes you obligated, and that Jew obligated, to know what is the relationship of a Jew and a non-Jew on Shabbos. You got this? This is one of the most mandatory things that Jews and non-Jews have to know. And it's one of the most, if not the most, abused halachas and Torah concepts in the entire Torah. Number one, because people break the law on both sides. Number two, they don't know the law. Number three, they don't want to know the law. And my own special number 4, what would you say if I told you this is classic Geir Torah? Or at least it's in that world. Surprise? This is the classic Akum contrast with Geir Torah that exists. This is classic of classic of classic. Are you ready to start the new series? And I'm going to tell you, buyer beware. We may sit on this for a little while. And I'm talking, this probably will be the biggest series we've done to date. Are you prepared to jump into a multiple week effort? More than the others. All right. So we're going to base this on a book that I bought. It's a very good book. It's called Halacha Brura, which means clarifying the halacha. And it's written, I believe, by Rabbi Avadia Yosef's son. But when I say written, it's compiled by. So he's taking from the classic sources. And it's called Amira Lanachri B'Shabbos. Asking a Nachri to break Shabbos for you. And from this book, it's going to direct us to everywhere we need to go. You guys interested? Speak now or forever hold your peace. All right. Now, there's a lot of things I want to do here, but I'm going to start off tonight. Akdama lahalachas melechis Yehudi hanasis al yedei goy. This is the introduction to the laws of malacha. Know that word, please. Malacha. I don't want to keep translating that word. Malacha, creative labor, a Jew cannot do on Shabbos. It's the thing that the non-Jew does do on Shabbos. Even the Geir, when the Geir keeps Shabbos, he does malacha. Correct? So, it's the halachas of malachas of Jews that are done by a goy. Who knows what a goy is, remember? It's akum, it's nachri. Now, you want me to tell you, I'm going to give you little hints and cheats so that you know where we're at all times, okay? Now, this is going to be our mashal from here on out. You ready? The Jew is staying in a hotel, type 1. It's a kosher hotel. And the what do you call it? The bellhop is a non-Jew. He's a Nachri. His name is Bob. What a shock. We have Moshe and Bob, type 1. Moshe is an ignorant Jew. He really doesn't know too much, all right? He doesn't know too much. And Bob, he's not pro-Jew, and he's not anti-Jew. He's just Bob. He is all Bob cares about on Saturday is, did LSU win the football game? Type 1. That's all he cares about. That is all he cares about. You know what the Jew cares about? What if the power goes out and the air conditioner is turned off and I'm going to sweat in my room? How am I going to turn on the air conditioner in this nice hotel if I'm Jewish and I can't break Shabbos? Does anybody have a problem with this? Can we continue? 1 or 2? Everybody with me? Guess what happened? Guess what happened? Poor Moshe. His power went out. Poor guy. Poor guy. Power went out. Right when it was hot, at 2 in the afternoon. Can you believe that? 2 in the afternoon, Moshe's power went out in his room. What mazel? He has to walk to the front desk. Hey, Buckaroo Bob, how's it going, man? How are you, Moshe? I'm all right, Buckaroo Bob. Listen, Bob, I know you're watching the game. Who's winning the game? LSU's up 24-0. Wow. Bob, that's pretty good. Listen, Bobo, it's unfortunate the power went out. Yeah, I know, it's horrible. We were sweating. Yeah, me too. And Bob says, well, thank the good Lord, Bob, we got power back on. Yeah, thank God. Which is halfway ironic, right? Because they're both talking about a different guy. Bob says, hey, or Moshe says, hey, Bob, I don't want to take you from the game, but Bob, it's pretty hot in my bedroom. It's pretty hot in there. Bob says, yeah, probably is pretty hot in there. You got the sun pointing in your room. Yeah, I know. Say, Bob, man, what do you think about that? Bob says, I'm the non-Jew. I'm supposed to hear that and say, oh, Moshe, would you like me to turn on your air conditioner? Moshe says, Bob, you're such a great guy. Wow, where do they find you? Yeah, that would be fantastic, Bob. They go back to the room talking about the LSU football game. Moshe says once his dad took him to a football game. And Bob says, wow, where was that at? And Moshe says, a little Jewish shtetl town in north of, you probably don't know. So they go in and Bob takes the remote and he aims it and bam, 16 degrees Celsius. Moshe is going to have an ice box of a room from that moment on, and he is going to be living large. Thanks, Bobo. Thank you, Moshe. You're one heck of a guy. You let me talk about LSU football. And you're one heck of a guy, too. You turn on my air conditioner. I got good nachri. Mazel tov to you. Good luck to you. And be well. Moshe goes and takes a nap in a cute air conditioning room. And Bob is oblivious to what happened. Justin B., why is Bob oblivious to what happened? Think back to the beginning of the last series. Bob is called, he has a predicament. What's it called? Let's go, anybody. What's wrong with Bob? Bob has a deficiency. What's Bob's problem? Bob is, what's another word we said for ignorant? He is blind. He's blind. He doesn't know, doesn't see, right? We're not uprooting his world. He's in his little, the stumbling block for the blind. There you go. We don't tell him stuff. We just have him turn on my air conditioner and be well, Bob. And we treat Bob like that wherever we find him. We don't tell him Rashi Taisvis, right? Not because it's forbidden, just because we don't want to put a stumbling block for the blind. You be a good Nachri, I'll be a good Jew, and we will get along. Moshe and Bob got along pretty well. Bob walked away saying, that Jew was one heck of a fellow. Moshe walked away saying, that Bob he was a goy, but he was a really good goy. He was nice. He was a good one. And no one knows any different. Now, you may want to say that Moshe is being derogatory and a not nice guy, but guess who's more blind than Bob? Who do you think is even more blind than Bob? Let's hear it. Starts with an M. Moshe. He doesn't have a clue, okay? He was raised in New York. He went to yeshiva. He didn't do well. He went and became a computer programmer, and he learns an art school Talmud on Shabbos day for half an hour in the air conditioning. And his Rebbe told him that non-Jews have a halakhic status of Shabbos goy. His Rebbe knows this inside and out, but thinks that Moshe is quite dumb, so he didn't give it over to him. And Moshe, when he goes to hotels, he uses that halacha because he thinks he is doing a big mitzvah by letting Bob in on this thing. And Bob is just being a great bellhop. These guys have a relationship, and they have no idea about what's going on. The thing is about poor Moshe, he is a robot. He is performing Jewish law that if we were to actually judge his behavior, and I'm not saying judge for good or bad, but analyze what he's doing, you can see what his Rebbe told him to do, right? Moshe, when Bob lights the air conditioning unit, don't touch the remote. So when Bob hands the remote back to Moshe, everybody, what does Moshe do? What does he do? Bob hands him the remote. What did Moshe do? He said, hey, I can't touch that. Could you put that on the table for me, Bob? And Bob says, that's a little eccentric. But he is so blind and ignorant, he won't even think about it. Oh, Jewish people are funny. What can I tell you? I guess, he probably thought that, he didn't want to touch my hand on the remote control. So, no, Bob, it had nothing to do with that. It had to do with Moshe's paranoid because his rabbi told him not to touch the remote at all costs. And then you, by ignorant nachri, wanted to hand him the remote. So you had two people that are blind, stepping on toes, not realizing what's going on because nobody wanted to bother to learn the Torah. What do you guys think about that? It's a sad state of affairs, isn't it? This is what happens. This is what happens. And then Moshe goes back and he talks to his Rebbe. Hey, but Moshe, how was the downtown hotel room? Oh, Rebbe, it was great, and the power went out. And Baruch Hashem, you told me about the halachas with the goy, and he wanted to give me the remote, and I remembered you said the remote is Musa. Musa means you don't touch something on Shabbos because it can break Shabbos. And I didn't take it from him. I said, hey, you put that on that table right there. And he did. And I was afraid because I thought I was going to do a sin with Musa. And I don't want to do a sin, but thank God you told me about Musa. Again, Musa is what you call something you can't touch on Shabbos. Can a Jew pick up a hammer on Shabbos? Can a Jew pick up and move a hammer on Shabbos? No. Why? Because hammers are used to do work and labor. There's no reason to pick up a hammer on Shabbos. So, if I had a hammer, I would go all over this land to show you. If I had a hammer in my cabinet and I wanted to, hold on, Justin, we're going to say it in a second. If I wanted to move the hammer because I'm making space in my cabinet, I cannot move my hammer. It's Musa. But if I use the hammer as a paperweight because there was a tornado. Did you know there was a tornado coming through my neighborhood? And I didn't want my desk papers to fly away in the tornado, right? So I put the hammer on top of my papers, and it actually blocked the tornado. They say that this hammer belonged to Samson, and it was a family relic, and it was from Samson, and so it blocked the tornado. Yeah, it's a true story. And that's the story. All right, so that is a little taste of reality, including the Samson story. That's the true part of the story. So now we're going to discuss that story. You know how in the old Mishlei class we got into all these little anecdotes, right? So Bob and Moshe, and Justin B., if I forget next week about Bob and Moshe, please remind me, because I would like to be consistent with our little story here, Bob and Moshe. That's going to be the star players in our little game we're playing here. The prohibition of Amira Lagoy B'Shabbos. Again, who can tell me a very nice definition of Amira Lagoy B'Shabbos? Who can tell me a nice definition of Amira Lagoy B'Shabbos? I like that. Shabbos Goy will work. Or you just say the long-winded way of saying it, the prohibition of asking a non-Jew to break Shabbos in the permitted way for the Jew. Got it? Does everybody have this? All right. We want to know where is this from and what's the reason? Why does it exist? The prohibition of asking a non-Jew to break Shabbos for a Jew in a way that is permissible. Meaning, it might be forbidden to do that, but the idea is that it would be permitted. Do you understand how that's not a contradiction? Meaning, I'll give you a cheat again, an inside cheat, right? It's a machlekes. Some people say there is a concept of Shabbos Goy, and some say there's not a Shabbos Goy, type 1. So if we said yes Shabbos Goy, what is a yes Shabbos Goy? The Shabbos Goy broke Shabbos in a permitted way for the Jew, right? The Jew cannot turn on lights. Bob turned on lights, type 1. Some say Shabbos Goy is forbidden. So if Bob was going to light the light for Moshe, and Moshe is a Talmud Chacham, he would say, no, Bob, it is illegal for me to break Shabbos, not only by myself, but with you as well. And always keep in mind, who is a Goy? Keep that in mind. Who are we? Are we talking Geir? Are we talking Akum? Talking Akum. Justin Becker says, maybe Bob, who is completely ignorant of Torah, maybe Bob, who is completely ignorant of Torah, but definitely not a Geir. Exactly. And I really don't want to bring Geir into this until the end, like weeks from now, all right? So just keep your thinking caps on. We're talking Noahide law, Dinim, right? It's the Geir who was not told of Shabbos. Remember this. We are trying to discover Noahide law. So Johnny Noahide came to Jewish man's house, right? Because there was a Noahide tour going through Manhattan. And they heard there was a Jewish rabbi there. And you have a bunch of Noahides. And they say, well, we're Noahides in a rabbi's house. Are we allowed to turn the light on for you? That's our case. Because the Nachri Bob in the hotel doesn't even know to ask the question, does he? So the Noahides, they ask the question, and they go and tell their Nachri friends, hey, tell your sister that she should not light the light on for her boss for Shabbos. Whatever it is, right? All right. We're going to stop soon. The sages the rabbis of the Talmud forbade saying to a goy to do on Shabbos any kind of malacha that is usher for a Jew to do. And that rhymes. I'm a poet and I know it. What does that mean in English? The rabbis prohibited a I was going to say going Gentile at the same time. A Gentile to do on Shabbos any malacha that is forbidden for a Jew to do. So, if we say a Jew cannot make a fire on Shabbos, type 1. Can Moshe ask Bob, can you come in my hotel room and make a fire for me? The answer is no. Moshe cannot ask Bob to make for him a fire. What if Moshe said to Bob, it's 2 p.m. on Friday right now, and there's no restriction here? What would happen, Bob, if you happen to come in my room tomorrow at 2 p.m., 24 hours from now, on Shabbos, and make a little fire for me? No! Moshe cannot ask Bob to do that. Now, there's a little olive here. There's a little olive here. What's that olive taking us to do? Cain, Amruba, Kama, Mekoinis, Betalmud. All right, so this is a halacha written by the author of this book. Okay? Type 1. Then the author is, which is Rav Yosef's son. He says, hey, did you ever think to ask where I got that halacha? And he put a little olive and he said, it is said all over the Talmud that the Mira Lagoy Shvus look in Shabbos and Gittin and Erevin and Baba Kama and Baba Metzia and more. And the Indian Kasha'imir Lakoidim Shabbos look at the Shokatati Dachilas Amaga the Sefer Zeh.